You're about to see how the biggest football clubs in the UK are rewriting the rules of stadium building. Aston Villa. First up, Aston Villa's North Stand expansion at Villa Park. And yeah, it's happening while the games are still on. They're actually expanding the oldest stand in the stadium without dropping a single seat. No fans lose their spots during games. How? They're reusing and adapting the existing North Stand structure instead of demolishing it, which is super rare in stadium engineering. The new plan boosts the North Stand's capacity from 5,000 to over 12,000 seats, while the full stadium will hit more than 50,000 seats. And the whole thing's designed to be up and running before Euro 2028 because Villa Park is officially one of the host stadiums. That's why the schedule is so tight. Everything has to be done by the second half of 2027. The whole project costs around £100 million. The plan also includes better facilities, food stalls, and flow of fans between tiers. Basically, they're building a fan-friendly arena without touching the pitch. But here's the twist. None of this can happen unless Whitton Station gets a serious glow-up. The train station right outside Villa Park can't handle the current matchday traffic, let alone an expanded crowd. So, West Midlands Mayor Richard Parker promised to rebuild the whole station with safer queuing lanes, bigger passenger shelters, and a new footbridge. That's gonna double the number of passengers it can handle on match days, from 5,000 to 10,000. Without that, the stadium upgrade stops. Once the expansion finishes, Villa says it'll bring in 1.1 million visitors every year and support more than 1,700 full-time jobs, and the stadium alone will pour £120 million into the local economy every single year. Also, the stand's new sustainable design is a big deal. Instead of wasting tons of materials tearing it down, they're reinforcing and modifying the existing steel skeleton to carry a larger upper tier. This cuts carbon emissions and construction waste by a huge margin. Villa's not just aiming for more fans, they're chasing UEFA standards while keeping their green score high. It's like football meets future tech. Newcastle United. Now from Birmingham, we shoot north to Newcastle, where things aren't just big. They're about to get massive. Newcastle United wants to build either the UK's second biggest stadium or transform their current home, St James's Park, into something totally new. Right now, St James's holds just over 52,000 fans, but that's not enough anymore. The goal is to go beyond 60,000 and maybe even touch 70,000, but they've hit one big fat wall, the Gallowgate end. Here's the problem. Underneath the Gallowgate end sits a fully working metro station. You can't just throw a ton of concrete and steel over an active railway and hope for the best. Engineers are studying how to safely expand this section, possibly raising it to match the height of the Milburn and Lees's stands. That's like building a giant bridge over a busy subway tunnel. Crazy hard. And it's not just the metro, the whole stadium is boxed in by listed buildings and conservation zones. You can't block sunlight to historic homes. Literally, there's a law called a right to light, and it's a serious deal in planning applications. That means every redesign has to squeeze into a tiny space without disturbing protected structures. Some concepts even suggest shifting the pitch northwest and raising the whole field. That would free up space to expand 2 stands, but it would also mean lowering others. Tricky trade-off. The estimated cost, expanding the current stadium could run between £800 million and £1 billion. But if Newcastle goes all in and builds a completely new stadium right next to the current one, it could hit £1.2 billion. And yes, they're seriously considering that. The proposed new stadium would be built on an overlapping footprint just brushing into Lees's Park. To make that work politically, Newcastle plans to build a new green space nearby to replace the chunk of parkland they'll use. This new arena would be a 70,000-seat bowl-style monster. If approved, construction could begin within the next few years and wrap up around the 2031 to 2032 season. That makes it one of the biggest projects in Premier League history. It's being compared to what Spurs did with their £1 billion rebuild of White Hart Lane. The vibe? Big, bold, and ultra-modern. The new stadium would also be surrounded by a massive retail, business, and entertainment complex. And yes, they're keeping fans in mind. St James's Stack, the current fan zone, sits on land they own behind the Gallowgate stand and already has permission to stay for 3 more years. Concept designs from 3D animator Damian Bosio show what this could look like. There are options that expand the Gallowgate stand all the way over the road, covering the metro station with reinforced steel and leaving road access underneath. One design even lifts the stadium up and rotates sections of the pitch. like football Tetris. But there's another reason for the urgency. St. James's Park is set to host games during Euro 2028, so any construction plan has to dodge those dates. That's why some experts think Newcastle will start with a smaller expansion first and then go all in on the new stadium later. Manchester United. Alright, next stop, Manchester United's wild new 100,000-seater stadium. And yes, it's real. This one is on another level. Manchester United plans to build a brand new stadium right next to Old Trafford, not a renovation. A full-on, from-the-ground-up mega stadium with 100,000 seats. That's 25,000 more than their current capacity and would make it the biggest club stadium in Europe. The price tag? A jaw-dropping £2 billion. The surrounding district is getting new housing, public parks, green walkways, transport links, and even business spaces. Once finished, the entire development is expected to create 92,000 new jobs and pump £7.3 billion a year into the local economy. Foster Plus Partners is handling the stadium design, and you've got to see this thing. The diamond-shaped roof is built to boost acoustics, trap sound, and channel it back down toward the pitch. It's designed to collect rainwater and solar energy, helping power the entire facility. And get this, the stadium will sit in a fully walkable district with 0 car zones, tons of bike lanes, and direct public transport access. It's a city within a city, wrapped around a football temple. The new stadium will sit just steps from Old Trafford. That's strategic. It lets fans keep going to games during construction. When the build is complete, the old stadium could either be taken down or repurposed into a training center or community hub. They're not just making space, they're building legacy on top of legacy. Manchester United's CEO Omar Barada says the new stadium is essential to the club's long-term future. Fans and local residents already had their say through the Old Trafford Regeneration Task Force, which finished all feasibility studies. Now it's full steam ahead with detailed plans and consultations. Even Sir Jim Ratcliffe, the club's co-owner, is backing it hard. He says this project will turn Old Trafford into a global landmark and create the greatest football stadium in the world. That's a bold claim, but with the engineering and budget behind it, he might just be right. Manchester City. But while Manchester United shoots for 100,000 seats, their crosstown rivals are taking a different route. Across the city, Manchester City is going vertical with steel skybars and rooftop walkways at the Etihad. This one's all about precision. The Etihad is being pushed from 53,400 seats to over 62,000, and the secret sauce here is steel, tons of it. The project focuses on the North Stand, adding 7,900 new seats and raising the entire second tier. That's right, they're not just adding a few rows, they're rebuilding the tier to make space for thousands more fans while boosting the structure's strength with a high-grade steel skeleton. And while the stadium grows, so does everything around it. A massive £300 million is being poured into this upgrade, turning the area into a non-stop entertainment zone. There's a new 400-room hotel that connects directly to the stadium. There's also a 3,000-person covered fan zone, a museum, restaurants, and even a stadium roof walk where fans can literally climb over the top of the arena, and a sky bar at the very top for the brave ones who want to sip a drink with a bird's-eye view of the pitch. Behind the scenes, the engineering is next level. The Etihad already has a unique roof design. It's cable-stayed, held up by massive pylons and tension rods anchored outside the bowl. Instead of messing with that, the team is threading new steelwork right into the existing setup, like weaving new muscles into a moving machine. They're using architectural tie rods and suspension techniques to keep everything balanced while work goes on. The design even includes a walkable pathway around the new roof, so fans can go on a literal stadium adventure. The North Stand expansion began in late 2023 and is scheduled to be fully open by the start of the 2025/2026 season, with final touches completed by the end of 2026. That means City fans won't have to wait long before this turns into one of the UK's top football destinations. From Manchester, things heat up in West London, where Chelsea are tangled in one of the most complicated stadium projects in the Premier League. Chelsea. Right now, Stamford Bridge holds about 41,623 fans, but the new plan is to jump that number to 60,000. Sounds simple, right? Not even close. The entire stadium might need to be demolished and rebuilt on the same plot of land. That's because Stamford Bridge is squeezed between railway lines, apartments, and narrow roads, making traditional expansion almost impossible. The rebuild would take at least 5 years, and during that time, Chelsea can't play a single match at their home ground. So they've been scouting temporary homes. Options include Wembley, Fulham's ground, or even Twickenham. Yes, the rugby stadium. That's how far this project stretches. The price tag? £1.5 billion. And that's just the stadium. That doesn't include the fan zone they're planning next door, which sits on 2.4 acres of land they bought for around £80 million. That space could add outdoor entertainment, food stalls, and retail areas that connect directly with the rebuilt bridge. But there's a catch. The land where Stamford Bridge sits isn't fully controlled by the club. It's actually owned by the Chelsea pitch owners, thousands of fans who hold the rights to the stadium and the club's name. To go forward with a full rebuild or move elsewhere, Chelsea needs approval from 76% of those owners, and fans have already blocked a move once before. Because of that, rebuilding on the current site now seems the most realistic path. One possible plan includes rotating the pitch 90 degrees and rebuilding around it to fit more seats. It's tight, it's slow, and it'll take years. But if it works, Chelsea could walk away with a modern stadium fit for the Premier League's top clubs. The goal? A full reopening by 2030, just in time to meet the growing demand from a rising global fan base. It won't be easy, but it's a long-term play to keep Chelsea in the stadium race with Arsenal, Spurs, and United. Speaking of Arsenal, the Emirates Stadium is next in line for a major upgrade. Arsenal. When the Emirates opened in 2006, it was the second biggest stadium in the Premier League. Now, it's fallen behind. Tottenham, West Ham, and Liverpool have all passed it in capacity, and Arsenal knows they need to catch up. The plan is to add a third tier, boosting the current 60,704 capacity by at least 10,000 seats. That would push the Emirates past 70,000, giving Arsenal a better shot at keeping up with revenue from match days and keeping the place packed during big games. Here's the tricky part. The stadium is boxed in on all sides. There's a tube line right nearby, and that means no major changes can happen without upgrading Holloway Road Station. That requires funding and approval from Transport for London and Islington Council. So engineers are looking at clever ways to build upward without adding pressure to the ground-level footprint. One concept involves stacking a third tier using lighter materials and extending support beams from inside the existing bowl, minimizing outward expansion. If the plan gets the green light, Arsenal could complete the upgrade by the summer of 2028. That timeline works because Emirates Stadium isn't on the host list for Euro 2028, so there's no disruption to that tournament. The extra seats could help Arsenal earn millions more every season, with estimates saying 10,000 more fans could bring in £30 to £40 million annually. That's huge when you're trying to sign top-tier players and compete across Europe. And if it's anything like what Barcelona did with their stadium, adding new upper decks and transforming fan zones, it'll completely change how Emirates feels on game day. Right now, the club is in the design and consultation stage, but the ambition is clear. Arsenal wants to build a louder, higher capacity stadium that keeps the energy in and the fans coming back. It's not as flashy as a full rebuild, but it's smart, fast, and very Arsenal. So which one of these stadiums are you most excited for? Drop a comment down below and tell us. And make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and smash that notification bell so you don't miss